Poor little girl gives her only chocolate to a crying man, but she didn't know he was a billionaire. What happens next is unbelievable. The park bench was cold. Elliot felt the chill creeping up his back, but he didn't move. He couldn't move. He had been coming here for 3 weeks, every day, always at the same time, always in the same spot. People passed him by, running, walking, talking on the phone. No one stopped. No one looked. It was as if he were invisible. Maybe it was better that way. Elliot stared straight ahead, but he saw nothing. His eyes were empty, lost in a place only he knew. A dark place where the pain lived, where the memories hurt so much that he preferred to feel nothing at all. He had lost someone he loved very much, someone who was everything to him, and now he didn't know how to live anymore. The leaves on the trees danced in the wind, the sun shone in the blue sky. Children played in the nearby playground, screaming with joy. But for Elliot, everything was grey. Everything was silent. He no longer remembered what it was like to smile. He didn't remember how to feel joy. It was as if a part of him had gone away forever. Time passed slowly. Very slowly. Elliot didn't even look at his watch. It didn't matter what time it was. It didn't matter if it was late. He was in no hurry to go anywhere. At home, everything was too quiet, too silent. That's why he came to the park. At least here. There was life around him, even if he wasn't a part of it. A light breeze rustled his hair. Elliot didn't even notice. He was too far away, too lost in his sad thoughts. It was then that he heard small footsteps approaching. Light steps, like those of a child. Elliot didn't lift his head. He didn't want to see. He didn't want anyone to see him either. He wanted to remain invisible, but the footsteps stopped right in front of him. Elliot felt a presence, small, silent, waiting. Slowly, very slowly, he lifted his eyes. A little girl was standing there. She was about 5 years old, with light blonde hair that shone in the sun. Her eyes were as blue as the sky. She looked at him with curiosity, without fear. The girl smiled, a small but real smile. Elliot was surprised. It had been a long time since anyone had smiled at him. It had been a long time since he had seen a real smile. The girl fiddled with the small backpack she was carrying. It was an old backpack with a few holes, but she cared for it as if it were a treasure. She took something out from inside, a chocolate bar. Small C, simple C, a little crumpled. She held out her hand to Elliot, offering the treat. "Eat this chocolate. It will chase the sadness away." Her voice was clear, strong, full of certainty, as if she knew exactly what she was doing. Elliot looked at the chocolate bar, then at her. He couldn't believe it. A 5-year-old child was there, offering her candy to a stranger, to someone she didn't even know. He reached out his hand slowly. He still couldn't believe this was happening. He took the chocolate carefully, as if it was something fragile. It was an ordinary chocolate bar, nothing special, but in his hands, it felt different. It felt important. "You're an angel." The words left Elliot's mouth before he could think. It was true. That little girl there, in that moment, seemed like an angel, a small blonde angel with blue eyes. The girl smiled again, a bigger smile this time, as if she liked being called an angel. "Why are you—" he started to ask, but his voice came out hoarse. It had been a long time since he had spoken to anyone. The girl tilted her head, curious. "You're sad." "I saw it." She pointed to her own eyes. "When you're sad, chocolate helps. My mum used to say that." "What's your name?" he asked, his voice firmer now. "Sadie." She smiled. "And you? Do you have a name?" "Elliot." He almost smiled too. "Of course I have a name." Sadie laughed, a light sound, like bells in the wind. "Everyone has a name, even the little birds." "Did you know?" She looked up at the trees. "I named them. That one over there is Pip." Elliot followed her gaze and saw a small bird hopping from branch to branch. She glanced back toward the trees in the park. "I have to go now, but you're going to eat the chocolate, right? Promise?" Elliot looked at the candy in his hands. "I promise." "Great." Sadie clapped her hands. "Tomorrow you'll be less sad. You'll see." Elliot wanted to say more. He wanted to thank her. He wanted to ask where she lived, if she would come back. He wanted to understand why such a small child cared about a sad stranger. But when he opened his mouth to speak, Sadie was already running. She ran toward the trees in the park. Her blonde hair flew in the wind. Her steps were light, almost soundless. In seconds, she disappeared among the green leaves, as if she had never been there. Elliot looked around. No one else had seen. No one else had noticed. To everyone else, nothing had happened. But in his hands was the chocolate bar, the proof that it was real. He looked at the candy. It was small, simple. It was a little melted from the warmth of the girl's hand. But it was there, real, true. Elliot felt something strange in his chest, a warmth he hadn't felt in a long time, a feeling he had forgotten existed. It was as if, suddenly, the world wasn't so grey anymore, as if the silence was no longer so heavy. The chocolate was warm in his hands. Or maybe it was him who was warming up from the inside. Elliot looked toward where the girl had disappeared. He couldn't see her anymore, but he could still feel her presence. He could still hear her voice. "Eat this chocolate. It will chase the sadness away." Could she be right? Could a chocolate bar really chase away sadness? Elliot doubted it. His sadness was too big, too heavy. It had been with him for so long that it felt like a part of him. But there was something in the girl's voice, a certainty, a hope, as if she knew something he didn't. The sun began to set. The colors of the sky changed from blue to orange. The park started to empty. The children went home with their parents. The noise subsided. But Elliot remained there, holding the chocolate bar. For the first time in weeks, he didn't want to leave. He wanted to stay. He wanted to wait. Maybe the girl would come back. Maybe she would appear again, from between the trees, with another smile. The chocolate started to melt in his hands. Elliot looked at it. It was just a piece of candy. But to him, in that moment, it was much more. It was a gift, a surprise, a sign that there was still kindness in the world, that there were still people who cared, even if it was a 5-year-old child who didn't even know his name. Elliot put the chocolate bar in his jacket pocket, carefully, as if it were something precious. The warmth in his chest was still there. Strange, almost forgotten, but real. For the first time in a long time, Elliot smiled, a small but genuine smile. And for the first time in weeks, he wanted to come back here the next day. Elliot woke up earlier than usual. For the first time in weeks, he had slept well. He had dreamed of blonde hair shining in the sun, and a small voice saying that chocolate chases away sadness. The chocolate bar was still in his jacket pocket. He hadn't eaten it. He couldn't. It felt too important to be just eaten. He had a quick coffee. He didn't have the patience to stay at home. He wanted to go back to the park. He wanted to see if he would find the little girl again. Sadie, that was her name. The name echoed in his head as he walked through the streets. A beautiful name. A name that matched blue eyes and a laugh like bells. He arrived at the park earlier than the day before. The sun was still low in the sky. Few people were around. A few dogs ran free while their owners chatted. Elliot sat on the same bench. He looked around, searching. He didn't see her. Maybe she wouldn't come. Maybe yesterday was just a fluke. Children are like that. They appear and disappear, like butterflies, but something inside him told him she would be back. Something in the way she had spoken, how she had promised he would be less sad. The minutes passed slowly. Elliot waited. He was in no hurry. He had nowhere else to be. It was then that he saw her. Sadie was near the playground, sitting in the sand. She had a backpack beside her, the same one from yesterday, old and with holes. She was focused, fiddling with something on the ground. Elliot stood up and walked toward her, slowly, so as not to startle her. When he got closer, he saw what she was doing. She was drawing in the sand with a small stick. The stick was small, thin. It looked like it had been broken off a tree. Sadie held it carefully, as if it were a special pencil. In the sand, there were simple drawings. A house with a triangular roof and a door in the middle. A round sun with lines around it, like rays of light. And a girl, just a few lines. but you could tell it was a smiling girl. "Hi, Sadie." She looked up and smiled. A big smile, as if she had been waiting for him. "Hi, Elliot. Are you better?" "Better. Yesterday you were very sad. Today your eyes are brighter." Elliot was surprised. He didn't expect a 5-year-old to notice that. "You think so?" "I do." "The chocolate worked, didn't it?" "Of course I came. I promised yesterday that I would eat the chocolate, and remember, and did you eat it?" Elliot hesitated. He didn't want to lie to her. "Not yet, but I will." Sadie seemed to accept the answer. She went back to fiddling in the sand with the stick. "Sadie, have you eaten today?" She stopped drawing and shook her head. "No, no." Elliot felt his stomach tighten. "Nothing at all?" "Nothing. No one has come by yet today." The simple answer made something ache in Elliot's chest. She spoke as if it were normal to wait for someone to show up to give her food. "Do you want something to eat? I can buy you something." Sadie's eyes lit up. "You can?" "Of course I can. What do you like to eat?" "A sandwich," she answered quickly, as if she had already thought about it. "And juice. Then I'll get you a sandwich and juice, and some other things too. Wait here. Don't leave, okay? I'm going to get the food now." Sadie nodded excitedly. Elliot ran to a small diner across the park. He bought sandwiches, juice, cookies, fruit, and a yogurt. He grabbed the full bag and hurried back. Sadie was still there, drawing. Now there were more figures in the sand, a tree, a cat, some small flowers. "I brought everything you asked for, and a few more things." Elliot sat in the sand next to her and opened the bag. Sadie's eyes sparkled when she saw the food, but she didn't dive in, as Elliot had expected. She carefully picked up a sandwich and began to eat slowly. "Thank you," she said with her mouth full, but remembered to swallow before continuing. "This is good." They ate together in silence. Elliot watched Sadie. She ate as if every bite was important. Nothing was wasted. "What are you drawing?" Elliot asked, looking at the lines in the sand. "My house." She pointed to the drawing of the house. "Where I lived with Mommy. It's pretty. It was..." Sadie drew a small flower next to the house. "It had a little garden. Mommy used to plant flowers." Elliot looked at the drawing of the sun. "And this sun. That's the sun that shone in my bedroom window in the morning. Whenever I woke up, it was there saying good morning to me." Her voice was calm, peaceful, as if she were telling any old story. "And the girl..." Elliot pointed to the smiling figure. "That's me." She smiled at him. "Why did you think I was sad yesterday?" Sadie thought for a moment, chewing her sandwich. "Your eyes were empty, and you kept looking far away like you had lost something." Her observation was simple but accurate. Elliot was impressed with the way she could see things. "And you? Why don't you get sad?" "Sometimes I do." Sadie drew a butterfly in the sand. "But then I remember that Mommy said we have to look for good things every day, even when it's hard." "And you manage to find good things?" "I do." She smiled at him. "Yesterday the good thing was meeting you. Today it's eating this yummy sandwich." There was something in the simple way she said it that made Elliot's chest warm. "Sadie," he said after she finished the sandwich, "can I ask you something?" "You can." "What about your parents?" Sadie picked up another piece of food, an apple. She began to peel it with her small fingers. "Mommy got sick. One day, she just didn't wake up. I stayed in the house for a few days, but then they sent me away." Her voice didn't change. It wasn't sad, it wasn't angry. It was as if she were talking about the weather or the drawings in the sand. Elliot felt his chest tighten. A 5-year-old child shouldn't have to talk about these things. "Who sent you away?" "Some people in uniforms. They said I couldn't be alone, that they were going to take me to another place." "And did you go?" "I ran away." Sadie took a bite of the apple. "I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay near my house." "And your dad?" "I don't have a dad, never did. Mommy said it was just the two of us and that was fine." Elliot was quiet. He didn't know what to say. How could a 5-year-old talk about these things so calmly? "Elliot?" Sadie was looking at him, curious. "Why were you sad?" The question caught him by surprise. Elliot didn't expect her to ask that. "I lost someone I loved very much. Your mommy too." "No, someone very special to me." Sadie seemed to understand that he didn't want to talk more about it. She just nodded and went back to eating her apple. It's bad to lose people we love, isn't it? It's very bad. But Mommy always said that the people we love never really go away. They stay here. Sadie pointed to her own chest. In our hearts. Her words were simple, but they made something stir inside Elliot's chest, as if something that was broken was starting to piece itself back together. You're very smart, you know that. Mommy used to say that too. Sadie smiled. Will you come back tomorrow? I will. The answer came out quickly, without him thinking. I'll come back every day, every single day, every single day. Sadie stopped eating and looked at him. Why? Elliot thought about the answer. Why, indeed. Why did he care so much about a child he had met 2 days ago? Because you gave me chocolate when I was sad. Because you're special. And because... He paused, searching for the right words. Because everyone needs someone. Do you need someone too? I think so. Then we can be someone for each other. They stayed there for the rest of the morning. Sadie drew in the sand and told stories about each drawing. Elliot listened and asked questions. Sometimes she laughed, sometimes he did too. Sadie talked about her mother, about the house where they lived, about the cat they had that disappeared. Elliot told her about his job, about the books he liked to read, about the movies he watched. Little by little, they got to know each other. The next day, Elliot returned, and the next, always at the same time, always with food, always sitting in the sand beside her to talk. Little by little, Sadie began to trust him more. She told him more things, laughed more often, asked more questions about his life. Do you live alone? She asked one day. I do. Don't you get lonely? Sometimes, but now I have you to talk to. And what do you do for work? I work with numbers, boring adult stuff. That must be hard, not as hard as living on the streets. Sadie shrugged, as if it was something normal. Elliot began to look forward to these moments, to her laugh, to her questions, to the drawings in the sand that always told a different story. A week passed. Then 2. Elliot and Sadie met every day. He brought food. She drew and told stories. But every night, Elliot went home knowing that she would be alone, sleeping in unsafe places, cold, afraid, and that bothered him more and more. On a colder afternoon, when the wind was strong and dark clouds covered the sun, Elliot made a decision. Sadie was drawing as usual, but this time she was shivering a little. The wind blew her hair and she held her arms around her body. Sadie. Hi. She looked up from her drawing. Do you want to come with me today? Take a warm bath. Eat something good. Sleep in a real bed. Sadie stopped drawing. She looked at Elliot with wide, surprised eyes. To your house? To my house. Why? Because it's cold. Because you deserve a warm bed. Because... Elliot paused. Because I want to take care of you. Sadie thought about it. She looked at the drawings in the sand. She looked at the park where she spent her days. She looked at Elliot. And tomorrow, will you bring me back? If you want me to, yes. And if I don't want to, then you can stay. Sadie thought a little more. The wind blew harder, and she shivered again. Then, slowly, she nodded her head. Okay, I'll go. Elliot felt something warm rise in his chest, a mix of happiness and relief, and also fear. Fear that he was doing the right thing. Fear of not knowing how to care for a child. Fear of hurting her by accident. But when he looked at Sadie putting her stick in her backpack, when he saw her stand up and brush the sand from her clothes, when she held out her small hand to him, Elliot knew there was no other way. He couldn't leave her there. Not anymore. Shall we go? Sadie asked, holding his hand. Let's go. Elliot smiled and held her hand back. Together, they left the park. The drawings in the sand were left behind, but Elliot knew there would be other drawings, in other places, at other times. And this time, Sadie would have someone to help her draw. Elliot's house was quiet when they arrived. Sadie stopped at the door, clutching her backpack tightly, looking around with wide eyes. Is this where you live? It is. Elliot opened the door and gestured for her to enter. You can come in. Make yourself at home. Sadie entered slowly, as if afraid of breaking something. Her steps were light, almost silent. She looked at everything with curiosity, the furniture, the pictures on the wall, the soft rug under her feet. It's big. It's bigger than I need. Elliot closed the door. You must be cold. Do you want to take a warm bath? Sadie's eyes sparkled. Can I? Of course. I'll show you where the bathroom is. Elliot led her down the hallway. Sadie followed him closely, still holding her backpack. When they reached the bathroom, she stopped at the door and looked inside. Is this just for me? It's just for you. Elliot turned on the water in the bathtub and adjusted the temperature. Not too hot, not too cold. Is this good? Sadie tested the water with her hand. It's perfect. I'll get some clean clothes for you. You can take as long as you want. Elliot left and closed the door. He went to his room and searched through his drawers. He found an old t-shirt that would be too big for Sadie, but at least it was clean. He also grabbed a small pair of sweatpants he had bought by mistake and never wore. When he returned to the bathroom, he knocked on the door. Sadie, I brought you some clothes. You can leave them there. Thank you. Elliot left the clothes on the floor next to the door and went to the kitchen. He opened the refrigerator and looked at what he had. Not much. He almost never cooked. He lived on ready-made meals and quick snacks, but he had eggs and bread. He could make something simple. He started preparing scrambled eggs and toast. Nothing special, but it was real food, hot food. While he was cooking, he heard the bathtub draining. Then small footsteps in the hallway. Elliot. He turned around. Sadie was standing at the kitchen entrance, wearing the clothes he had set out for her. The t-shirt was huge on her, almost a dress. The pants were rolled up at the cuffs, but she looked clean and warm. How do you feel? Better. She smiled. The water was nice. Good. Are you hungry? I am. Elliot served the scrambled eggs and toast on 2 plates. They sat at the small kitchen table. Sadie ate slowly, chewing each bite well. It was as if she wanted the food to last longer. Is it good? Very. Sadie picked up a piece of toast. You cook well. I don't cook much, but I know how to make scrambled eggs. They ate in silence for a while. Elliot watched Sadie. She seemed different now, clean, warm, fed, but there was still something tired in her eyes, as if she carried a weight too heavy for a 5-year-old. Sadie, are you tired? A little. Do you want to sleep? She stopped eating and looked at him. Where? I've prepared a room for you. It's temporary, but it's comfortable. Elliot took her to a small room at the end of the hall. There was a single bed with clean sheets, a thick blanket, and a small table beside it. It wasn't much, but it was warm and safe. Is it for me? It's for you for as long as you need. Sadie put her backpack on the floor and sat on the bed. She tested the mattress, pressing it with her hands. It's soft. You'll sleep well here. Elliot? Sadie looked at him with serious eyes. Why are you doing this? The question caught him by surprise. It was simple, but hard to answer. Because you need a safe place, and because, he paused, thinking, because it's the right thing to do. Sadie nodded, as if she understood. Thank you. You don't have to thank me. Elliot helped her get under the blanket. Sadie curled up in the bed, pulling the blanket up to her chin. If you need anything, just call me, okay? My room is right over there. Okay. Good night, Sadie. Good night, Elliot. Elliot turned off the light and closed the door slowly. He went to his room, but couldn't fall asleep right away. He lay there thinking about the little girl in the next room, about how her life had changed so quickly, about how his was changing too. Finally, sleep came. Elliot woke up in the middle of the night to a low noise. At first, he thought it was the wind, but the sound continued, and he realized what it was. Crying. Muffled crying, as if someone were trying not to make noise. Elliot got up slowly and went to Sadie's door. The crying was coming from there. He stood outside, not knowing what to do. Should he go in? Let her cry alone? He didn't know how to deal with children. He didn't know what was right. But the crying continued, and something inside him couldn't take it. He knocked on the door very softly. Sadie. The crying stopped for a moment. Then it started again, even quieter. Elliot opened the door slowly and went in. The light from the hallway illuminated the room a little. Sadie was curled up in bed, shivering. Her eyes were closed, but tears were streaming down her face. "No, don't go," she whispered in her sleep. "Mommy, don't go." Elliot approached the bed. Sadie was having a nightmare. Her body was trembling and she was moving, as if fighting against something. "Sadie," he said softly. She didn't wake up, but continued to whisper, "I was good. I promise I was good. Don't leave me alone." Elliot's heart ached. He sat on the edge of the bed and touched her shoulder gently. "Sadie, you're safe here." His voice was low, calm. Sadie stopped trembling as much, but she was still crying. "You're safe here, Sadie," he repeated. "No one is going to hurt you." Slowly, Sadie opened her eyes. She was confused, still half asleep. "Elliot, I'm here. I had a bad dream." "I know. But it's over now, you're safe." Sadie sat up in bed and snuggled against him, like a cat seeking warmth. Elliot tensed for a moment. He wasn't used to this, but then he relaxed and let her lean on him. "Mommy." In the dream she was leaving again. "It was just a dream, but it felt real, I know. Sometimes dreams feel very real." Elliot stayed there, sitting on the bed with Sadie leaning against him. She gradually stopped crying. Her breathing became calmer. "Elliot." "Will you stay here?" "I'll stay as long as you need." "Thank you." Elliot remained there, silent, present. He didn't quite know what he was doing, but he knew it was important. Sadie needed to know she wasn't alone, that someone cared. Little by little, she began to relax. Her breathing became heavier. She was falling asleep again. Elliot stayed there, even after she fell asleep. Something inside him had changed. It was no longer just about giving a child a safe place. It was about caring, about protecting, about being someone she could trust. When he was sure Sadie was fast asleep, Elliot gently laid her down and pulled up the blanket. She murmured something softly but didn't wake up. He left the room and left the door ajar, in case she needed him again. Back in his room, Elliot lay down and stared at the ceiling. There was something different about the house now. It wasn't silent in the same way anymore. There was life there. There was someone who needed him. And for the first time in a long time, Elliot felt needed. He was beginning to care without even realizing it. The next morning, Elliot woke up to a different sound in the house. It wasn't a loud or strange noise. It was just movement. Small footsteps in the hallway. He lay there for a moment, listening. It had been years since he had woken up to the sound of another person in the house. It was strange, but not bad. It was as if the house had started breathing again. Elliot got up and went to the kitchen. Sadie wasn't there. He heard the footsteps again, now coming from the living room. When he went to look, he found Sadie standing in the middle of the living room, just looking around. She was wearing the oversized clothes he had given her the night before. Her blonde hair was messy from sleep, but her eyes were wide awake. "Good morning, Sadie." She turned and smiled. "Good morning, Elliot. Did you sleep well after the nightmare?" "I did." She looked around again. "Your house is very quiet. It is, always has been." Sadie walked to the window. Her steps were light, careful, as if everything were too fragile to touch. She didn't run, didn't jump, didn't make noise. It was as if she were afraid of breaking something. Elliot watched her approach the bookshelf. Sadie reached out her hand, almost touched one of the spines, but stopped midway and pulled her hand back. "You can touch it," Elliot said. "You can touch things." "Can I really?" "Of course. You live here now." Sadie seemed to think about those words. "You live here now." It was the first time someone had said that to her since her mother had passed. She touched one of the books very gently. Then she ran her fingers over the coffee table, the sofa, the wall, all very carefully, as if she were getting to know the house through touch. "Are you hungry?" Elliot asked. "A little. I'll make breakfast." In the kitchen, Elliot prepared toast and juice. Sadie sat at the table, but kept looking around. Her eyes lingered on every detail, The cups in the cabinet, the clock on the wall, the refrigerator covered in old magnets. Elliot? Yes? Where am I going to play? The question caught him by surprise. Elliot looked around the kitchen, then at the living room. There was no place for a child to play. The whole house was designed for an adult living alone. Well, wherever you want, I guess. On the living room floor. That could work, or... Elliot paused. We could set up a little corner just for you. Sadie's eyes sparkled. A corner of my own. A corner of your own. After breakfast, Elliot went out. He told Sadie he would be back soon and that she could make herself at home. She nodded, but he saw her stand by the window watching him leave. Elliot went to a department store downtown. He walked through the aisles, not sure what to look for. It had been years since he had bought anything for a child. He stopped in the furniture section. There were small tables just right for children. He chose a simple one, made of light wood with 2 little chairs. It wasn't expensive, but it looked sturdy. Then he went to the stationery section. He grabbed new notebooks, colored pencils, crayons, markers. He put everything in the cart without thinking much about the price. In the toy section, he was more lost. There were so many options. Dolls, cars, games, stuffed animals. Elliot didn't know what Sadie liked. He chose a few simple things, a small, soft teddy bear, some building blocks, a puzzle with few pieces, books with colorful pictures. When he got home, Sadie was in the same spot where he had left her, sitting in the living room, looking out the window. I brought you a surprise. A surprise? Elliot started taking things out of the bags. First, the small table and chairs. Sadie approached, curious. Where do you want me to put it? Over there. She pointed to a corner of the living room, near the window. There's a lot of light there. Elliot set up the table in the spot she chose. Then he placed the notebooks on top, the colored pencils, the markers. He arranged the toys next to it, in a small basket he had bought. Sadie stood still, just watching. Her eyes were wide, as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Is it for me? It is. She slowly approached the little table. She ran her hand over the smooth wooden surface. She picked up one of the colored pencils and twirled it between her fingers. Just mine. Just yours. Sadie pulled out one of the little chairs and sat down. The height was perfect. She placed her arms on the table and smiled. I've never had a table of my own. And now you do. She opened one of the notebooks. The pages were white, clean, full of possibilities. She picked up a blue pencil and began to draw. Elliot watched her for a moment. There was something different about Sadie now. She no longer seemed afraid to touch things. She was focused, comfortable. For the first time, something there belonged to her, and she belonged there. For the rest of the day, Sadie didn't leave her little table. She drew for hours. Houses, flowers, cats, suns, clouds. Her drawings were simple, but full of color. Elliot stayed nearby, pretending to read a book, but really watching her. It was strange how the presence of a child changed the atmosphere. The house felt more alive. In the late afternoon, Sadie got up and went to the kitchen. Elliot heard her fiddling with something, but didn't go to see. He wanted her to feel free to explore. When he went to prepare dinner, he found a small piece of paper on the counter. It was a drawing of a bowl with steam rising from it, and underneath, written in a child's handwriting, I liked the soup. Elliot smiled. It was the soup he had made for lunch. In the following days, Sadie began to open up more in the house. Her steps were no longer so careful. She walked with more confidence, touched things without fear, and she began to sing. At first it was just quiet humming while she drew. Then they became songs. They weren't songs Elliot knew. They seemed to be made up by her on the spot. The sun is yellow, the house is blue, the cat has whiskers, and the dog goes woof woof. Her voice was sweet, in tune. It filled the house in a way Elliot hadn't expected. It was as if every room came to life when she sang. Elliot started finding notes around the house, small pieces of paper with simple drawings and words. On the living room window, the sun is pretty. On the refrigerator, I drew a cat today. On his bedroom nightstand, thank you for the table. Each note was a little surprise. Elliot began to look forward to them. He would search the house to see where Sadie had left the next one. One morning he was having coffee when Sadie appeared in the kitchen with a notebook in her hands. "Elliot, do you want to draw with me?" "Draw?" "Yeah, at my table." "There's room for two." Elliot looked at her. It had been a long time since he had drawn. In fact, he couldn't remember the last time he had held a colored pencil. "I'm not very good at drawing." "That's okay. I'll teach you." Elliot followed her to the little table. Sadie had already set out pencils for him and opened to a clean page in the notebook. "What do you want to draw?" she asked. "I don't know." "What do you think?" "A house?" "Sure." Sadie started drawing her part of the house. A simple house, with windows and a door. Elliot tried to draw something similar on his side. "No, not like that," Sadie laughed. "Look, the door has to be bigger than the windows. Otherwise, how will people get in?" Elliot tried again. This time the door was too big. "Now it's too big." Sadie laughed louder. "It looks like a giant's door." Elliot looked at his drawing and started to laugh too. It was true. The door was ridiculously large. He was laughing. He was actually laughing. It had been so long that Elliot no longer knew what his own laugh sounded like. It was strange, but good, like a muscle he hadn't used in a long time that suddenly started working again. "I'll draw a giant person then," he said, drawing a huge figure next to the door. "Perfect." Sadie clapped her hands. "Now it makes sense." They continued drawing together. Sadie added flowers to the garden. Elliot drew some crooked clouds in the sky. Sadie made a cat in front of the house. Elliot tried to draw a dog, but it looked more like a small horse. "What kind of dog is that?" Sadie asked, trying to hold back her laughter. "A special dog. Very special." She burst out laughing, and Elliot laughed with her. The afternoon passed quickly. They filled several pages with drawings, houses, animals, trees, people. None of Elliot's drawings turned out very well, but it didn't matter. Sadie celebrated each one as if it were a work of art. "You're getting better," she would say. "This cat almost looks like a cat." When the day was over, Elliot looked around the living room. There were papers scattered on the little table, colored pencils out of the box. The teddy bear was sitting in one of the little chairs, as if it were part of the fun. The house was messy, but it wasn't a bad mess. It was the mess of someone living there, of someone who felt at home. That night, as they were cleaning up the colored pencils, Sadie hummed a new song softly. In Elliot's little house, there's a table for to draw. There are pencils of every color, and a place to come and play. Elliot stopped putting away the pencils and listened. The song was simple, but it was about them, about the house, about the place they were building together. The house was filling with sounds and affection. It was no longer the silent house where Elliot lived alone with his sadness. It was a home, a place where a child sang, drew, and left sweet notes. A place where they laughed together, even if the drawings came out crooked. A place where Sadie had her own corner, her own little table, her own colored pencils. And for the first time in a long time, Elliot's house was full of life. Sadie had already explored almost every room in the house. The living room, where her special little table was. The kitchen, where she and Elliot had breakfast together. Her room, which felt more like hers every day. The bathroom with the big tub where she loved to make bubbles. But there was one place she hadn't entered yet. A door at the end of the hallway that was always closed. Elliot had never told her she couldn't go in, but he had never invited her either. It was a Saturday morning. Elliot was in the kitchen washing the breakfast dishes. Sadie had finished drawing at her table and was wandering around the house, as she always did when she got bored. She stopped in front of the closed door. She stood there for a moment, looking. It was an ordinary wooden door, with a golden doorknob. But there was something different about it. It seemed quieter than the rest of the house, as if it were keeping secrets. Sadie reached out and touched the doorknob. It was cold. She turned it slowly, testing it. The door wasn't locked. She pushed it open a little and peeked inside. It was an office. There was a large desk in the center with papers organized in piles, a bookshelf full of books, a brown leather armchair in the corner, and everything was very clean, too organized. As if no one had touched anything in a long time. Sadie entered slowly. Her feet sank into the thick carpet. It was a serious, adult space, But it wasn't scary. It just felt sad. She couldn't explain why, but the air in there was different. She walked to the desk. There was a computer, pens in a mug, a few thick books. Nothing very interesting for a 5-year-old child. She went to the bookshelf. The books all looked the same. Dark covers, titles with difficult words. Sadie ran her fingers along the spines, reading the few titles she could understand. It was then that she saw it. On the desk, half hidden behind a stack of papers, was a picture frame. It was old, made of dark silver, slightly tarnished by time, and inside was a photo. Sadie approached and carefully picked up the picture frame. The photo showed a smiling girl, a girl with light blonde hair, almost white, and bright blue eyes. She looked to be about 8 or 9 years old. The girl's smile was big, joyful. She was in a park with trees in the background. She was wearing a light blue dress and holding an ice cream cone in her hand. She looked very happy. Sadie looked at the photo for a long time. The girl looked a little like her. Not a lot, but there was something in the eyes, in the shape of her face, and that smile. It was the kind of smile that made people smile back. Sadie. She turned around quickly. Elliot was standing at the office door, looking at her. Sadie was afraid she had done something wrong. "I'm sorry. I didn't know I couldn't come in here." "You can come in." Elliot's voice was strange, quieter than usual. "It's okay." He entered the office and stood near her. He looked at the picture frame in Sadie's hands. "You found the picture." "I did." Sadie looked at the girl in the photo again. "Was she your daughter?" The question came out simple, direct, as children's questions always are. No beating around the bush, no fear of hurting. Elliot paused for a moment. He stared at the photo in Sadie's hands, then he sat in the leather armchair. Suddenly he looked very tired. What was her name? "Emma." "Emma." Sadie repeated the name softly, as if testing the sound. "That's a pretty name." "She was pretty." Elliot looked at his own hands. "She was smart, too, and funny. She made me laugh all the time." Sadie placed the picture frame back on the desk, carefully. Then she approached Elliot. "Where is she now?" Elliot took a long time to answer. When he spoke, his voice was even lower. "I did everything I could. She got very sick, and she didn't make it." The words came out slowly, heavily. It was the first time Elliot had spoken about Emma to anyone since she had passed. It was hard. The words hurt in his throat. Sadie was quiet for a moment. She didn't say, I'm sorry, or "that's a shame," like adults always did. She didn't ask difficult questions. She didn't try to explain or fix anything. She just moved closer and hugged him. Her small arms wrapped around Elliot's neck. She rested her head on his shoulder and stayed there, quiet. It was a simple hug, but full of affection. The kind of hug that doesn't need words. Elliot was surprised at first. He wasn't expecting it, but then he relaxed and hugged her back. It had been a long time since someone had hugged him. It had been a long time since he had let someone get this close. "You must miss her a lot," Sadie murmured into his shoulder. "I do. Is that why you were so sad that day in the park?" "It is." They stayed like that for a while, hugging in the silence of the office. There was no rush. There was no need to say anything more. Sadie understood without anyone explaining. She understood that Elliot had lost someone very important, someone he loved more than anything. She understood that his sadness was big, heavy, the kind that doesn't go away easily. And Elliot felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. He wasn't alone with his pain. There was someone there who understood, someone who didn't judge, didn't try to fix, just stayed close. The silence between them said more than 1,000 words. It said that pain is better shared than carried alone. It said that sometimes a hug is worth more than any explanation. It said that two people who had lost important people could help each other, even without talking about it. It said that Elliot didn't have to carry everything alone, and that Sadie wasn't just a child he was helping. She was someone who was also helping him in her own way. When they finally separated, Elliot wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Sadie didn't comment on the tears. She just smiled at him, a small but genuine smile. "Did Emma look like me?" she asked. looking at the photo again. A little. You both have beautiful eyes and smiles that make people happy. I think she would have liked me. She would have liked you a lot. Sadie picked up the photo again and looked at Emma. Can I tell you something? You can. Sometimes I pretend Mommy is still here. I talk to her when I'm alone. I tell her about my day, things like that. Elliot looked at her fondly. And what do you think she would say about you being here? I think she would be happy, Sadie smiled. She would say you're a good person, and that I'm lucky to have found you. I'm the lucky one. Why? Because you reminded me that I can still take care of someone, that I can still be useful. Sadie put the photo back in its place and took Elliot's hand. Come on, I'll show you the drawing I made today. It's a house with two happy people in front. They left the office together, but before closing the door, Elliot looked back one last time. The photo of Emma was still there, in the same place as always. But now it didn't hurt as much to look at it. It still hurt. The longing would always hurt. But now there was something more. There was the certainty that Emma would be happy to know he was taking care of another child, that he was sharing the love he had learned from her. For the first time since Emma had passed, Elliot managed to smile looking at her photo, and he left the office door open. It was a Sunday morning. The sun streamed through the living room windows, illuminating the small table where Sadie was drawing. She was focused, making a colorful picture. Elliot watched her from the armchair, sipping his coffee. It had been a week since Sadie had been living with him, a week since she had discovered Emma's photo. Since then, something had changed between them. It was as if an invisible wall had fallen. They talked more, laughed more. The house felt lighter. Elliot looked out the window. The day was beautiful. Blue sky, no clouds, the kind of day that begged to be enjoyed outside. Sadie? Hi. She looked up from her drawing. How about we go out today? And go out. Her eyes sparkled. Where to? I don't know. Just walk around. See the city. Maybe have lunch out. Sadie dropped her colored pencil and turned completely towards him. Really, can we? Of course we can. Do you feel like it? I do. She stood up from her little chair, excited. Can I bring my backpack? You can bring whatever you want. Sadie ran to her room. Elliot heard her rustling around, probably choosing what to bring. She came back a few minutes later with the old backpack on her shoulders, but now filled with the things he had bought for her. I'm ready. Then let's go. In the car, Sadie was glued to the window, looking at everything with curiosity. It had been a long time since she had been in a car. It had been a long time since she had gone out for pleasure. Where are we going first? She asked. How about downtown? There's a lot to see there. Okay. Elliot drove slowly, taking the opportunity to show Sadie the city. He pointed out interesting buildings, beautiful parks, places he used to go when he was younger. That's the library. He pointed to a large, old building. We can go there one day. It has books with very beautiful pictures. I like books with pictures. And that's the movie theater. They show movies on a big screen. I've never been to the movies. Never. Never. Mommy always said we would go one day, but Sadie stopped talking, looking out the window. We'll go one day, Elliot said. We'll choose a really cool movie to watch. Promise? I promise. They parked in the city center. Sadie jumped out of the car excitedly, holding Elliot's hand. They walked through the streets, looking at the shop windows, watching the people. So many people, Sadie murmured. It's always crowded here on Sundays. They stopped for ice cream at a small shop. Sadie chose strawberry flavor and was happy when Elliot let her eat the whole thing without rushing. Is it good? Very. She licked the ice cream carefully so as not to spill. Don't you want one? No, I like watching you eat. Sadie smiled and continued with her ice cream. Afterwards, they walked a little more. Elliot showed her the main square, the old fountains, the old church. Sadie asked questions about everything, curious to understand how things worked. Elliot, look. She stopped in front of a toy store. The window was full of colorful things. Dolls, cars, stuffed animals, games. Sadie pressed her face against the glass, observing everything with sparkling eyes. Want to go in and look? Elliot asked. Can I? Of course. They entered the store. Sadie walked slowly through the aisles, looking at the shelves full of toys. She didn't touch anything, just looked, as if she were in a museum. "You can touch them," Elliot said. "You can pick them up to see." "Can I really?" "You can." Sadie began to explore. She picked up a few toys, examined them carefully, and put them back in their place. She was having fun just looking. It was then that she stopped. In front of a shelf full of dolls, there was one that caught her eye. It was a medium-sized doll with long blonde hair and a light blue dress. The dress had delicate details, lace on the sleeves, a sash at the waist. Sadie stood before the doll for a long time. She didn't pick it up, just looked. Her eyes had a strange expression, nostalgic. "She's pretty, isn't she?" Elliot said, approaching. "She is." Sadie's voice came out as a whisper. "I always wanted one like this, but it was expensive. We just looked from the window." Elliot looked at the doll, then at Sadie. There was something in the way she spoke that made his heart ache. It was as if she were remembering a special moment with her mother. "Did you and your mum look at dolls in the windows?" "We did." Sadie smiled, still looking at the doll. "Mummy said that one day when she had money, she would buy me a beautiful doll, one just like this. And you would always go back to look. Always. It was our game. We would make up names for the dolls. Imagine what it would be like to play with them." Elliot was quiet for a moment. He imagined a little Sadie, even smaller than now, pressed against a shop window with her mother, dreaming of toys she couldn't have. "What did you call this one?" he asked. "Princess Sophia." Because of the blue dress. Sadie looked at the doll for a little longer, then she walked away. "Should we look at other things?" "Let's." They continued walking through the store. Sadie looked at other toys, commented on some, laughed at others, but Elliot noticed that she didn't stop anywhere for very long anymore. When they left the store, Sadie seemed a little quieter. "Are you okay?" "I am." She held his hand. "I was just remembering Mommy." "Good memories. Good memories." They had lunch at a small restaurant. Sadie ordered pasta with tomato sauce and ate everything slowly, savoring it. Elliot realized she was still not used to eating out. She watched everything around her with curiosity. "Are you enjoying the outing?" "Very much." Sadie smiled. "Thank you for bringing me." "You don't have to thank me. I'm the one enjoying it." "Really?" "Really. It's been a long time since I went out to have fun." After lunch, they went back to the car. Elliot said they would stop at one more place before going home. Sadie agreed, excited, but instead of going to another place, Elliot went back to the toy store. He parked the car in front and left Sadie waiting. "I'll just get something I forgot. Stay here for a minute." "Okay." Elliot entered the store and went straight to the doll shelf. He picked up the doll in the blue dress, Princess Sophia, as Sadie had called her. He took it to the checkout and paid in silence. He asked for it to be put in a simple bag. When he returned to the car, Sadie was humming softly, looking out the window. "Did you get what you forgot?" "I did." Elliot handed her the bag. "This is for you." Sadie looked at the bag, surprised. "For me? But I didn't ask for anything." "You don't have to ask. Open it." Sadie opened the bag slowly. When she saw the doll inside, her eyes widened. "Elliot, it's Princess Sophia." "It is, but why?" "Because you always wanted one. And because I think your mum would have wanted you to have it." Sadie took the doll out of the bag very carefully. She held it as if it was something precious, fragile. She ran her fingers over the blue dress, over the doll's long blonde hair. "She's perfect. She's yours." Sadie hugged the doll to her chest. Her eyes were teary, but she was smiling. "I think Mommy would have liked this," she said, smiling at the doll. "I'm sure she would have. She always said that one day I would have a beautiful doll. And now I do." Sadie held the doll for the rest of the ride, talking softly to it, as if they were old friends. Elliot drove in silence, watching in the rearview mirror how she cared for the gift with affection. When they got home, Sadie ran to her room to show the doll where she slept, where her drawings were, where her little table was. "Look, Sophia, this is our house. You're going to like living here. Elliot is very nice, and there's plenty of room to play." Elliot stood at the bedroom door, watching. Seeing Sadie so happy with something so simple, made something warm spread through his chest. It felt good to give gifts. It felt good to see someone happy because of something he had done. It felt good to take care of someone again. That night, at bedtime, Sadie placed the doll on the bed beside her. "Good night, Sophia. We'll play a lot tomorrow." And for the first time since her mother had passed, Sadie slept hugging a doll from her dreams. Elliot woke up earlier than usual. He had slept well, but his eyes opened naturally as the first rays of sun came through the window. It was a Monday morning, and for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel that weight in his chest upon waking. The silence of the house was different now. It was no longer the empty silence of before, when he lived alone with his memories. It was a silence full of life, because somewhere in the house someone was sleeping, someone who was a part of his life. He got up slowly, trying not to make noise. Sadie must still be sleeping. In recent days, she had developed the habit of waking up a little later, enjoying the comfort of the soft bed and warm blankets. It was good to see her so relaxed, so secure. Elliot went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. He liked these quiet morning moments, when he could organize his thoughts and prepare for another day with Sadie. Days that had become precious to him, full of little surprises and joys he had forgotten existed. When he reached the kitchen, he stopped at the door. On the table, right in the center, was a piece of paper. It was a sheet from the notebook he had bought for Sadie, but this time the drawing wasn't on her little table. It was there, waiting for him, like a morning gift. Elliot approached slowly, feeling his heart beat a little faster. There was something special about that paper. He could feel it. The drawing was made with colored pencils in the vibrant colors Sadie always chose, but there was something different about this drawing. Something more careful, more detailed than the others. It was as if she had dedicated extra time, extra care. It was a drawing of two people holding hands. A tall person with dark hair and simple clothes. A man. Elliot could see that she had made an effort to get the details right. The shirt he always wore, the way his hair was a bit messy in the morning. On the other side, a small person with long blonde hair and a colorful dress. A girl who was clearly herself. And in the girl's free hand, a small doll with a blue dress, Princess Sophia, whom he had bought for her. Elliot recognized it immediately. It was him and Sadie. The details were simple, like all drawings by a 5-year-old, but there was affection in every stroke. The man in the drawing was smiling, a big smile that took up almost his entire face. The girl was also smiling, and her eyes were two bright dots full of happiness. Both looked happy in a way that jumped off the paper. But what made Elliot's heart race were the words written above the drawing. In large, almost slightly crooked letters, but perfectly legible. "Me and my friend Elliot." Elliot picked up the paper carefully, as if it were something fragile and precious. He observed every detail again, the way Sadie had drawn his hair, using dark brown and making small strokes to show it was a bit messy. The way she had made her own eyes, large and bright, with eyelashes that looked like sunbeams. The doll she held so affectionately, with every detail of the blue dress carefully colored. And those words, "My friend Elliot." It wasn't Elliot, or simply Elliot. It was my friend, as if she were declaring something important, as if she were saying that he belonged to her, just as she belonged to him, as if she was showing the whole world that they were important to each other. Elliot felt his eyes well up with tears. They weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of a happiness so great it couldn't fit inside his chest. It had been so long since someone had called him a friend. It had been so long since he had felt important to someone. "Did you like it?" Elliot turned around quickly. Sadie was standing at the kitchen entrance, still in her pajamas, pink pajamas with little stars that he had bought for her. Her blonde hair was messy from sleep, forming small curls around her face. There was an expectation in her eyes, a good kind of anxiety, as if she were waiting for a very important approval. "Sadie." Elliot looked at the drawing again, trying to find words big enough for what he was feeling. "When did you make this?" "Last night, after you went to sleep." She approached with small, careful steps. "I stayed up for a little while at my table. I wanted to make a special surprise. You stayed up to make this for me." "Man, I did." She smiled, a little shyly. "I wanted it to be perfect. I tried 3 times until it was just the way I wanted. It's beautiful. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Oh, really? Her eyes sparkled. It's not ugly. Ugly? Elliot knelt in front of her, getting down to her eye level. Sadie, this is a work of art. It's perfect. I wanted to draw us because... She paused, as if searching for the right words. Because you're my friend. My best friend. And friends stick together, right? Elliot felt a lump in his throat. It wasn't just the drawing, it was everything it represented. It was Sadie saying, in her own way, that they were important to each other, that they were a family now, even if she didn't know how to say it yet. Sadie, come here. She moved closer until she was right in front of him. Elliot could see every little detail of her face, the tiny freckles on her nose, the blonde eyelashes that shone in the morning light, the blue eyes that always seemed to hold 1,000 secrets. This drawing is the most beautiful thing anyone has ever made for me, really and truly, really and truly. And do you know why? Sadie shook her head, curious. Because you reminded me of who I am. You brought me back. Sadie tilted her head to the side, as she always did when she was trying to understand something important. Back from where? Elliot thought of the right words. How to explain to a 5-year-old what it was like to be lost in sadness. How to say that he had stopped living after Emma passed. How to explain that for months he had just existed, without really being alive. I was very sad, remember? So sad that I had forgotten what it was like to be happy. I had forgotten how to laugh, how to enjoy waking up in the morning. But you... He touched her face gently, feeling the soft, warm skin. You showed me again. How did I do that? With your smile, with your beautiful drawings, with the sweet little notes you leave around the house, with your songs that make the whole house happier. Elliot smiled, feeling his heart overflow with love. Sadie, you made me live again. Smile again. I'm going to do everything I can to be the best dad for you. You'll go to school, travel, have everything you've ever dreamed of. The words came from the heart, unfiltered, unplanned. Elliot didn't even fully realize what he had said until he saw Sadie's eyes go completely wide. Dad? It was then that Elliot realized he had said dad, not friend, not guardian, not the person who takes care of you. Dad, he began, but stopped, because it was true. That was exactly what he wanted to be for her. It was what his heart had been screaming for weeks. Yes, Dad. Sadie looked at him for a long moment. Her blue eyes seemed to be processing this new and important information. Elliot could almost see the thoughts running through her mind. You want to be my dad, more than anything in the world, and I would be your daughter. You would be my daughter, if you want to be. Sadie didn't answer with words. Instead, she threw herself into his arms with such force that she almost knocked him over. The hug was intense, desperate, full of love. Sadie buried her face in Elliot's neck and stayed there, holding on as if she would never let go. Her small arms wrapped around his neck, and she pressed against him as if to make sure this was real. Elliot hugged her back, feeling his eyes fill with tears. They weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of relief, of happiness, of a love so great it was almost painful. It was as if the entire void that had been in his chest since Emma left was filled all at once. Sadie hugged him without saying anything, but everything was said. It was said that she loved him too, that she wanted to be a family too, that she had also found her place in the world. It was said that they were no longer two lonely people trying to survive. They were a family, small, different, but real and true. It was said that love doesn't need blood to be real. That family isn't about who brought you into the world, but about who chooses to stay by your side. They stayed like that for a long time, hugging in the kitchen, with the drawing on the table serving as a silent witness to the moment everything changed. The morning sun streamed through the window, illuminating them both as if with a blessing. When they finally separated, both had teary eyes, but they were smiling. Smiling so much it seemed their faces couldn't contain so much happiness. So now you're my real dad, Sadie asked, touching Elliot's face as if to make sure he was real. Now I'm your real dad, forever. Forever and a day. Sadie laughed, and the sound filled the kitchen with joy. Shall we have breakfast? Elliot asked. But first I'm going to put my drawing in a very special place. Where? On the fridge, so everyone can see it when they come here. Elliot laughed. Everyone who... You and I are everyone, Sadie said, serious as she always was when she said important things. For now. But one day maybe more people will come to visit our family. The day passed differently from the others. There was something in the air, a special energy, as if they both knew something very important was happening, but no one wanted to rush it. It was as if they wanted to savor every moment of this special day. Sadie played with her doll Sophia, making up stories about a princess who lived in a beautiful house with her father who loved her very much. She drew at her little table, making pictures of happy families, always a tall man and a small girl, always holding hands. She sang her songs, but now the lyrics were about having a home and someone to take care of her. Elliot worked a little on the computer, but found himself constantly stopping to watch Sadie play. He prepared lunch with more care than usual, choosing things she liked. He read a few pages of a book, but his mind was elsewhere. He was thinking about the future and about all the moments they would share. In the late afternoon, as the sun began to set and paint the sky orange and pink, Elliot had an idea. There was a question he needed to ask, an official, important question. Sadie, want to come with me to the garden? I'll get Sophia. She picked up the doll carefully. She likes to watch the sunset, and now she needs to see the important moments of our family. The backyard garden was small but cozy. It had soft green grass, a few trees that provided shade on hot days, and flowers that Elliot had planted years ago but was only now truly seeing. There was a wooden bench he had put there when he bought the house, but rarely used. They sat together on the bench. Sadie placed the doll Sophia on her lap and watched the sky slowly change color. The sun was low on the horizon, painting everything in warm, soft tones. It's beautiful, isn't it? Said Sadie, swinging her legs that didn't reach the ground. Very beautiful. I don't think I ever really paid attention before. Why not? Because I had no one to share it with. Now I do. Sadie smiled and snuggled closer to him. Mommy always said that the sunset is like a gift the sky gives us every day. She said we just need to stop and look. Your mother was very wise. She knew a lot of beautiful things. Sadie was quiet for a moment. Elliot? Yes. Do you think she's watching us now? Elliot looked at the sky, which seemed to be on fire with color. I think so. And I think she's very happy to see you so well cared for and loved. Do you think she likes you? I hope so. I hope she knows that I'll always take care of you. I think she likes you a lot. Sadie smiled at the doll. You're a good person. You make me happy every day. And you gave me a home and a family. They sat in silence for a moment, watching the sun slowly dip below the horizon. It was a perfect moment, peaceful, full of promises and possibilities. Elliot felt as if his whole life had led up to this moment. It was then that he felt it was the right time, the time to ask the most important question of his life. Sadie. Yes. He turned to look at her. Sadie turned too, leaving the doll between them as if it were a witness. I want to ask you something very important, the most important thing I've ever asked anyone. You can ask. I like important questions. Elliot took a deep breath. He had been thinking about these words all day, but now that the time had come, his heart was beating so hard it felt like it would burst out of his chest. Sadie, would you like to be my daughter? For real, officially, forever. The question came out softly but clear as crystal. Sadie stopped swinging her legs. Her eyes widened, and then filled with tears that sparkled like diamonds in the golden light of the sunset. But she was smiling so much that the tears seemed to be of pure happiness. Yes, more than anything. Her words were whispered, but Elliot heard them as if they were shouted from a mountaintop. He heard them with his heart, with his soul, with every fiber of his being. Really? He asked, wanting to be absolutely sure. Are you sure? I'm sure. I want to be your daughter more than anything in the whole wide world. She wiped away her tears with the back of her hand. And you want to be my dad, forever and ever, more than anything in the universe. You are the most precious thing that has ever happened in my life." Sadie threw herself into his arms for the second time that day. This time, they were both crying and laughing at the same time. It was a cry of happiness, of relief, of pure and true love. "So now we're a real family?" Sadie asked, still hugging him. "We're a real family. The realest family that ever existed, forever and ever. Forever and for all the days that come after." The sun finished setting as they hugged in the garden. The first stars began to appear in the now dark blue sky. It was the end of a day, but the beginning of everything. The beginning of a new life, a new family, a love that would last forever. It was a new beginning. No official papers yet, no formal ceremony, no contracts or documents or signatures, just the simple and powerful truth of two people who chose each other. Two souls who found each other and decided they belonged together. Elliot had lost a daughter and found another. Sadie had lost a mother and found a father. Both had been alone and lost, and now they had a family. They had each other. They had a home full of love. When they went inside, Sadie ran to her room and came back with a blue-colored pencil. "What are you going to do?" Elliot asked. "Fix my drawing. It's wrong now." She went to the refrigerator and took down the drawing she had made that morning. With care and concentration, she crossed out the words, "My friend Elliot," and wrote underneath, in even neater and more careful letters, "My dad Elliot." "Now it's right," she said, satisfied, putting the drawing back on the fridge. "Now it's perfect," Elliot agreed, feeling his heart overflow once more. That night, at bedtime, Sadie asked Elliot to stay in her room for a little while. She settled into bed with her doll Sophia, but before pulling up the covers, she looked at him with eyes shining with happiness. "Dad?" she said, testing the word as if it was something new and wonderful. "Yes, daughter," he replied, testing it too and discovering that the word fit perfectly in his heart. Both smiled. The words were perfect, right, as if they had always been that way. "Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for letting me choose you. Thank you for making me a dad again. Good night, Dad. Good night, my dear daughter." And for the first time in a long time, they both slept in complete peace, knowing that they would wake up the next day as a real family, knowing that they were no longer alone in the world, knowing that they had found in each other exactly what they had been looking for without even knowing they were looking. Love had conquered sadness. Family had been born from the meeting of two solitudes, and now they had forever. There was a door upstairs that Elliot hadn't opened in over a year. It was at the end of the hall, always closed, always silent. It was an ordinary door, made of light wood, with a golden doorknob that had lost its shine over time. But for Elliot, it was the hardest door in the house. It was Emma's room. Since she had passed, Elliot had locked the door and kept the key in a drawer in his office. He couldn't go in, he couldn't see her things, the bed where she slept, the toys she loved. It was too painful. But now, on a Saturday morning, Elliot stood at the foot of the stairs with the key in his hand. Sadie was in the garden, playing with her doll, Sophia. He could hear her voice through the open window, telling stories to the doll, inventing adventures. It was a cheerful sound that filled the house with life. Elliot looked at the old key in his hand. It was small, made of dark metal, worn by time. He had carried this key in his pocket for months, as if it were a weight he had to bear. But today, it felt different, lighter, as if it were a tool for liberation, not pain. He went up the stairs slowly. Each step made a soft creak under his feet. When he reached the upstairs hallway, he stopped in front of the closed door. He stood there for a moment, just looking, breathing, preparing his heart. He reached out and put the key in the lock. He turned it slowly, hearing the soft click of the mechanism opening. The door opened with a slight creak. Elliot went in. The room was exactly as Emma had left it, the small bed with the pink blanket she loved so much, the bookshelf full of books and toys, the small table where she drew, the curtains with a butterfly print that they had chosen together at a store. But there was no more pain. It was strange. Elliot expected to feel that sharp pain in his chest, that sadness that left him breathless. He expected to have to run out, as had happened the few times he had tried to enter before. But no, there was longing. Yes, a sweet and gentle longing, like someone remembering something very good that happened a long time ago. There was love. All the love he felt for Emma was still there, strong and true, but there was also peace. Peace because he knew that Emma would be happy to know that he was okay, that he had found someone to love and care for again, that he was no longer alone. Elliot walked through the room, touching things affectionately, Emma's favorite doll sitting on the little chair, the books he used to read to her before bed, the drawing she had made of him still stuck to the wall. "Hi, Emma," he said softly. "I miss you every day. But now I have someone special that you would have loved to meet." He stood there for a few minutes, remembering, letting the longing come and go as natural as breathing. Then he made a decision. It was time to transform this space, not to erase Emma, never to erase Emma, but to pass on the love she had taught him. Elliot went downstairs into the garage. He got paints, brushes, some cloths. He had bought new paint a few weeks ago, thinking of renovating the house. Now he knew exactly where he was going to use it. He returned to Emma's room and started to work. First, he carefully put her things away in a special box. He wasn't going to throw them away, he would keep them forever. But now they would be safe in a special place, like precious memories. Then he began to paint the walls. He chose a soft yellow, the color of the morning sun. It was a cheerful yet calm color, a color that Sadie would like. The work was slow, careful. Elliot painted each wall thinking of Sadie, thinking of how happy she would be to have a big, bright room, thinking of all the mornings he would wake up knowing she was there, safe and loved. When he ran out of paint, he went to buy new things, light and airy curtains that would let the sun in, a new bed, bigger than the one Sadie was using in the temporary room, colorful sheets and a soft warm blanket. He worked all day. He put up the new curtains, assembled the bed, arranged everything carefully. When he was finished, the room was completely different. It no longer looked like Emma's room, but it didn't erase her memory either. It was as if the love that was there before was now ready to welcome a new love. It was almost dinner time when Elliot finished. He came downstairs and found Sadie in the living room, drawing at her little table. She looked up when she saw him. "You were making noise upstairs all day," she said, curious. "What were you doing?" "A surprise for you." "A surprise?" Her eyes sparkled. "What kind of surprise? Want to see?" Sadie immediately dropped her colored pencil and stood up. "I do." They went up the stairs together. Sadie held Elliot's hand, hopping a little with anticipation. When they reached the upstairs hallway, Elliot stopped in front of the door that had once always been closed. "Sadie." "Yes." Elliot looked at her, his heart full of love and hope. "This room is yours now." He opened the door. Sadie entered slowly, her eyes wide with emotion. She looked around, seeing the yellow walls that shone in the afternoon light, the light curtains that danced in the breeze, the large bed with colorful sheets and the soft blanket. Is it for me?" she asked, almost whispering. "It's all yours." Sadie walked through the room as if she were in a palace. She touched the curtains, sat on the bed, looked out the window that overlooked the garden. "It's the most beautiful room in the world. Do you really like it?" "I love it more than anything." She threw herself on the bed, sinking into the soft mattress. "It's perfect, Dad, Dad." The word still made Elliot's heart race every time she said it. It was the most beautiful word in the world. "Can I move everything in here today?" "You can. Let's go get your things." They spent the next hour transferring Sadie's things from the temporary room to the new one. Her small clothes, the toys, the drawings, the doll Sophia. Everything found a special place in the new room. When they finished, Sadie sat on the bed and looked around with a huge smile. "I never thought I'd have such a beautiful room. You deserve this and so much more." "Dad?" "Yes?" "Who used to sleep here before?" Elliot sat on the edge of the bed. He had been expecting this question. "Emma, my other daughter." Sadie was quiet for a moment, processing this information. "Won't she be mad that I'm using her room?" "She won't." Elliot smiled. "She would be very happy to know that someone as special as you is here." "Really?" "Really." Emma liked to share. She liked to take care of people. She would have liked you a lot. Sadie smiled and snuggled under the blanket. Then I'll take good care of her room, and I'll remember her every day. Thank you, Sadie. That night, after Sadie fell asleep in her new room, Elliot went to his office to organize some papers. He was going through the drawers when he found a small box he had forgotten existed. It was a small, simple wooden box. Elliot opened it slowly. Inside were a few special things he had saved over the months. A photo of Emma, a note she had written to him, a small stone she had found beautiful, and at the bottom of the box, carefully folded, was the crumpled wrapper from the chocolate bar Sadie had given him on that first day in the park. Elliot picked up the wrapper carefully. It was yellowed with time, crumpled, almost falling apart, but it was still there. He had kept it as if it were a treasure. Dad? Elliot turned. Sadie was standing at the office door in her pajamas, holding her doll Sophia. Hi, honey. Couldn't sleep? I did, but I woke up. I wanted a little water. She approached the desk and saw the open box. What's that? Some special things I keep. Sadie looked inside the box and saw the chocolate wrapper. Her eyes widened. You saved it. Elliot picked up the wrapper and showed it to her. I saved it. But why? It was just a chocolate wrapper. Elliot looked at the crumpled wrapper, remembering that day in the park, remembering how lost, alone, and hopeless he had been, remembering a little girl with blue eyes who appeared out of nowhere and changed his life forever. This is where it all began. That chocolate. It saved me. Sadie looked at him with shining eyes. What do you mean? You gave me this chocolate when I was sadder than I had ever been in my life. I thought I would never be happy again. But you appeared, gave me a treat and smiled at me. Elliot held the wrapper affectionately. You showed me there was still kindness in the world, that there was still a reason to smile. Sadie was quiet for a moment, absorbing these words. I just wanted you to be less sad. And you succeeded. You saved me, Sadie. You brought me back to life. Sadie smiled, and in that smile was all the wisdom of a child who understands what is important, and you gave me a home. Her words were simple, but full of meaning. Elliot felt his eyes well up with tears, good tears, of gratitude and love. They hugged there in the office, in the middle of the night, surrounded by memories and promises of the future. Sadie snuggled into Elliot's lap, and he held her as if she were the most precious treasure in the world. Dad? Yes? Can I keep this wrapper too? In my special box? Of course, it's ours. No. It's yours. You're the one who saved it. But I want to keep it together, because it was the beginning of our family. Elliot smiled and kissed the top of her head. Then we'll keep it together. They put the wrapper back in the box along with the other precious memories. Then, Elliot took Sadie back to her new room and tucked her into bed. Now, good night, daughter. Good night, Dad. Thank you for the most beautiful room in the world. Thank you for giving me a family again. When Elliot closed Sadie's bedroom door, he stood in the hallway for a moment. He looked at the door that had once been always closed and was now ajar, letting a soft light escape. There was no more pain. There was no more fear. There was only love, the love that Emma had taught him and that he was now passing on to Sadie. There was only gratitude